like to extend a warm welcome to all of our guests. Each year, at this Hall of Honor ceremony, Commerce ISD has the privilege to showcase our great alumni and all of their impressive accomplishments and successes. We are proud to have such a wonderful turnout to recognize and honor this year's well-deserving inductees. So please, sit back, relax, and enjoy this lovely luncheon as well as the rest of the homecoming festivities. Welcome to Commerce ISD. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Lavelle Hendricks. He is going to do our invocation, and Dr. Hendricks is also a school board member.
Let us pray together. Gracious Father, we are thankful for this day that you have given us. Your word teaches us the importance to give honor to whom honor is due. It's a great day here in Commerce, Texas, that we can give such respect to those who have come through here and have now become so successful in life. We thank you, Father, for the many families and friends who've come as well. We pray for your traveling grace upon this day when we depart. We're thankful, Father, that we live in a district whereby we can truly give honor and privilege to so many down through the years. We're thankful for our product of our students. Commerce ISD has the greatest students here in this entire United States. We continue to pray for our administrators, our teachers, and our staff as well. But we always pray that you give us the wisdom, the knowledge, and the guidance that we stand in need of. We ask that this food that has been prepared will be for the nourishment of our bodies. For it's in his name we do pray. Amen. Amen.
Good morning. This is always one of my favorite days of the year. I will say that this year is a little different because of the people involved between classmates and teachers and people that have known me my entire life. The stories some of y'all are able to tell about me, it makes me a little nervous. But we are very excited to recognize these individuals and all the accomplishments they've made and the representation they've given for Commerce ISD. But thank y'all very, very much for being here.
Okay, I think we're going to eat this time.
Thank you, LaDonna. Thank you, LaDonna.
Have you ever heard of Mary Hendry? Dr. Hendry? People Yes. I started in Ogden, but I have 7 extra classes. 3 or 4 times. I'm unable to raise my leg with my goal. Raise my leg straight out. Can't really. I can get it in off the bed. I suppose. I can take others as I tried to open the wrong door. The elevator lost its mind.
We're about to get started, but I do want everybody to give one more big round of applause to our Jazz Cats. They're phenomenal. We always really appreciate what they do and the presence that they can bring. There's a couple things I'm going to take care of first. We did have one more school board member walk in, Dr. Ray Green and Beth, if you could give them a round of applause. The last thing I get to do is introduce our speaker today, Mr. Steve Drummond. Mr. Drummond has been our high school principal. He is now our director of HR. I think you will really enjoy his presentation. Mr. Drummond.
Thank you, Mr. Alderman. Before I get started, I'd like to recognize a few people if I could. I'd like to start with our food service ladies, the Haneys, Miss Brenda, Miss Sharon. They're back there. They've prepared this meal for us today. Here they come. If y'all give them a round of applause. I'd also like to recognize our high school principal, Mr. Roger Brown. He was serving us today. And our principals council. These are some of our finest kids at Commerce High School. And there's quite a few more of our finest right behind me with their fine arts director and our band director, Miss Carol Wallace. Really proud of our Jazz Cats. They kind of all our honorees have had comments about our music so far, so that tells you how good it is. And they bragged on our kids for taking care of us, serving us, so thank all those people. And lastly, I'd like to mention Miss LaDonna Smithers. She puts a lot of this work in, and she does it behind the scenes. She's sitting right back there at the middle table. I know all of you know her, but Miss Smithers, thank you for all you do to make this happen. And with that, I'm going to get started and introduce our first Hall of Honor inductee, and that's Miss Betty Casselberry. Not only can Betty Casselberry's impact on our community be measured by the millions of dollars she managed for CISD, but also on the thousands of students whose lives she enhanced by offering them the best opportunities possible through her work as the Director of Finance at Commerce ISD. Betty Casselberry was one of those people who came to East Texas State University and never left. After receiving her bachelor's and master's degree, she began her 31 years of service and education in Trinidad ISD, where she was a typing and shorthand teacher. As a beginning teacher in 1963, Betty was able to find room and board in the home of a widow. However, this is so interesting to me. Her future as an educator was in jeopardy because she announced that she would be marrying soon. The widow's objection wasn't because of Mr. Gene Casselberry, but rather during that time, teachers were encouraged to avoid matrimony. That's just, wow, how times have changed. Betty also taught in Harris ISD before joining ETSU as Assistant Dean of Women. She was promoted to Assistant Director of Financial Aid, where she stayed for 11 years. Her ability to manage funds and people was recognized when she joined Commerce ISD as the Director of Finance in 1984. During her 16-year tenure at CISD, she oversaw the financial operations of a changing district with ever-increasing demands from the Texas Education Agency. Ms. Casselberry, they're still piling it up. The complexity of the school finance law, coupled with increased student information management, demanded that she become much more than a bookkeeper. Her expertise in these areas elevated her influence across the county as well as throughout the state. She successfully secured financing for many school projects, including the construction of Commerce Elementary School in 1991 and Commerce High School in 2000. A large part of her success can be attributed to her ability to instill trust from her co-workers in the community. Her integrity is without question, and her countenance and manner belied the heavy responsibility on her shoulders. Since her retirement in 2000, Betty has continued serving through the Hunt Regional Hospital Auxiliary, the Bargain Box, and is a 5th-year member of Chapter AH of PEO. Betty and her late husband, Gene, were staunch supporters of TAMUC and the Commerce Tigers and could be found at many athletic events. And I asked her if it was okay for me to share a little story about her husband this morning. She said yes. When I first came to Commerce, as principal, I started getting these calls on a regular basis from a guy named Gene Casselberry. And I started looking through Skyward, and I didn't see that he had any kids in school, but he really wanted to talk to me. So I called him, and he said, are you the principal? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, I'm going to need you to start getting some programs out for the basketball games. And so sure enough, here came Friday night, and I didn't have those programs out, and Mr. Gene came up and said, okay, Mr. Drummond, I hope you enjoy sitting by me tonight and telling me who all the players are and how old they are. And of course, everybody I told him, he knew their parents, their grandparents, or aunt and uncle, so he taught me a lot more than I did him, but I know they were a power couple in Commerce for a long time. Betty has 2 children who attended Commerce schools, Matt Casselberry and Amy Williams, who are both here today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Miss Betty Casselberry, 2022 Hall of Honor inductee.
Thank you, Mr. Drummond. I hope you can hear me. I am very honored today to be here with so many family and friends. Mr. Alderman, thank you to the school board for choosing me for this honor. I was surrounded by the greatest team of support staff you can ever imagine when I was at Commerce ISD. And one of my staff members, Sue Davis, is here with me today. And if you recall, and you were here back then, she was the one who paid you every month. And so, but she and I are still good friends and do lots of things together, so that's wonderful. And I am so excited to be back in Commerce ISD. The 80s and the 90s that Steve mentioned were very challenging. I loved the fact that we were able to build 2 schools, Commerce Elementary and Commerce High School. But the frustrating part was, and as he said, it's still going on, we had 11 funding changes from TEA during that 16 years. So each year, as we did the budget, we blew blind on some things. We never knew if the teachers were going to get a raise till the last minute, and it was very difficult. But with the staff I had and the fun we had and the fact that I served with Dr. Pat Pope and Mrs. Loretta Kidler, it was just wonderful. They were the kind of superintendents that if you needed to clean out the storeroom, they were right there with you. They never asked us to do anything that they would not also do. And I'm really proud of the bond issue that passed. I'm very excited about the changes to the high school campus and the new middle school. It's just going to be wonderful. When we built the high school, we changed the old high school into a middle school. It's still there. And so, it is going to be so nice for them to have a state-of-the-art facility like the high school was. And the high school is 22 years old, y'all. A lot has changed in those years that they're having to make changes for this, that, and the other there. But I'm really proud of the staff that Mr. Alderman and the board have chosen. I just know our kids are in wonderful, wonderful hands. And I wanted to introduce my family and friends that are here today with me. Back at that table are Kay and Clarence Jensen. If you live in Commerce, you know them. Everybody knows Kay and Clarence. Kay is a former retired educator from Commerce ISD. And at this table, Sue Davis is at this table, and she and I are good friends today and do lots of things together. And one comment was made, Mother, if you can't find a way, you know you have somebody a little older than you to help you find a way.
A little older than mine.
Yeah. And also at my table is my friend Ann Maxwell Stedden from Denison. She's my daughter-in-law's aunt. And she has her beautiful bed and breakfast that I stay in when I go to Sherman to watch one of the kids play a game or something and don't want to drive home in the night because I'm too old. So Ann helps me all the time. And then I have my very best friend that I met in 1961 here at East Texas State University, Dr. Joan Terry, who now now lives in Rockwall. She's also a retired educator. I have her daughter, who is my child by another mother. She and Amy are both Chi Megas, and the wonderful thing, when Amy was inducted, Tiffany came to the induction as a surprise for her. And then, last but not least, I have my two. I have Matt and Amy. I hope I can get through this. They are my rocks, absolute rocks. And they are raising 4 of the most exceptional grandchildren that you can ever imagine. Amy's son will soon be 24. He is in training as a helicopter pilot in Fort Rucker, Alabama, and has the sweetest wife who occasionally will just call and say, "Grandmother, today is really a hard day. You might want to make a phone call later." And so I do. Matt has Dane, who's a senior in high school and is a kicker on varsity. We don't know where he's going to go next year. We'll wait and see. Then Drew is 16, and Dion is 14. And Matt's making waves about retiring. He's in the same classroom, in the same school that he started when he started teaching. He's in Sherman in Pannell Middle School. And these two, Gene's in heaven now, but he knows that these two are taking good care of me. And Amy works for the police department for the city of Frisco. And she works at home, but goes into Frisco really often, probably 1 or 2 times a week, to help that. She's been there 20 years, and Matt's been in Sherman 32 years. And so I'm very lucky because Gene knows these 2 kids are taking care of me. But I appreciate this honor, and I want you to know that I always have been, and I always will be a commerce hacker. Thank you.
It's my privilege to now introduce our next honoree, Miss Amy Johnson, Commerce High School class of 1978. Name any extracurricular activity at Commerce High School in the late 1970s, and Amy Johnson was either the leader or a valued team member. She excelled in academics, having won the honor of competing in the International Science Fair in Anaheim, California, and achieving the top spot in her class as valedictorian. She was editor of the Shreggett yearbook and submitted articles to the local newspaper. Amy was on the sidelines at Memorial Stadium reporting about Wade Wilson's success on the football field during a 10-0 season. An athlete herself, she played tennis and golf at Commerce High School. Her success and involvement continued at the University of Texas in Austin, where she graduated with the highest possible academic honors. She then went to Harvard Law School, where she completed her coursework there in 3 years. A list of Amy's activities followed. She clerked for federal judge William Wayne Justice in Tyler. And I remember on the news in the 80s and 90s, all the legal news was always coming out of Judge Justice's office in Tyler. She mentioned all the work that they did as far as reforming our prisons and finalizing the integration of Texas public schools. She was appointed to serve on the first Public Insurance Council by Governor Ann Richards. She accompanied her husband, Dr. Michael Savage, while he served as the medical director for the Peace Corps in Dakar, Senegal. A university lecturer for Suffolk University in Dakar, and received the Texas Outstanding Service Award. Amy has been involved in several large-profile legal cases over the last 23 years as a private environmental justice attorney. She led the Water Act citizen suit against Formosa Plastics Corporation, Texas, which was settled for $50 million. The settlement will be used to support projects to reverse water pollution damage in Calhoun County. The ongoing case was featured in the Netflix documentary Dirty Money, Point Comfort. So let's all make that our next Netflix. She can talk for days about nurdles, which are the plastic pellets found to be polluting the waterways and injuring wildlife. Cleanup begins this month under a $28 million contract. Amy is the daughter of Commerce resident Norman Johnson. Her father, Paul, is deceased. Amy is in attendance today with her husband, Michael, and they currently live in Portland, Oregon, even though she did share with me that she is missing the sunshine and plans to move back to Texas shortly. Her guests today are several previous Hall of Honor inductees, including Wyman Williams, Janet Peak, and Aldous Alderman. Please join me in celebrating Amy Johnson as a 2022 Hall of Honor inductee.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here, and I do want to mention I do have a daughter who's in Boston right now getting her doctorate in molecular biology, biochemistry, so way beyond my skill level. I gotta say, I have Mr. Alderman at my table. When I hear Mr. Alderman, I feel like I have the real Mr. Alderman here. You were born when we were in 7th grade and talking a lot in class, and I have Mrs. Peak here. I have a lot of people to thank. But first, I'd like to thank my mother, and I wish my daddy were here, but he's not, but he got to know. And I thank my husband for coming all the way from Portland with me and for being supportive through my consistent talk about nurdles and dreams about them. And that case is going to go for years, I will tell you. It's still going. But what I did want to say about Commerce Schools is some things that I got out of it beyond academics. And it was probably a false sense of confidence. When I grew up, I just felt like I was loved in this community. And I used to, I don't know if anybody, some of you will remember Annie Louise Huggins, but she was I sang for Annie Louise Huggins, and we sang not just church songs, but by high school we were singing school tunes. I could have done the Boogie Woogie Beautiful for you. And Miss Huggins would say to us, now I want you to sing loud because I want to hear your mistakes. And everybody here loves you no matter what you do. And I believed it. And it was true. It was true. She did want to hear our mistakes, and everybody did love us. And I will tell you, I thought that until I got to law school. And I thought, well, everybody here loves us. And they did not. That was when I learned they did not. But that attitude, that confidence that comes from feeling like you're loved and feeling like if you make a mistake, it's okay, is a nice way to go through life. And I will tell you that the legal team we eventually put together to try that big that clean water case against Formosa, which was tried in Texas, in Victoria, was we called ourselves Team Sunshine, and that was because we were happy. And not all lawyers are. Suffice to say, sorry, it's a little secret, but because the other team was so unhappy, because you could see it when you watch them. And one of my co-counsels would always tell the other team, "I love you, it really bothered them. It was kind of like a team strategy, you know, that we were going to be so happy and they weren't. But anyway, so that was one thing. One of the things is this sense of love, and I trust that kids still get it today. And the other one was probably a false sense of confidence, where I just thought I was good at everything. Because when you're in a little school, you can try all these things, and everybody encouraged you to. You know, like my daughter, like she's had to play volleyball all year these days because it's clubs and da-da-da. We got to do everything. You know, I got to do science, I got to do math, I got to do debate, and I got kind of cocky at it all. But I had lots of support. And we had wonderful, wonderful teachers sitting right here, some of them, who took care of us, made us feel safe, you know, told us when we were out of line, but always supported us. And like Mrs. Peak was my journalism, you know, guru, and I got to write, you know, stringer stories for the newspaper. So there is so much that being from here can give to kids. I trust it still is. And but it's just more than academics, and that's what I appreciate and I thank Commerce Schools for, and I'm glad that Mr. Alderman's son is still doing it, and I'm sure that he's just as good as his daddy. And I'm very honored and touched to be in this Hall of Honor with all these really wonderful people. So thank you very much.
Our next honoree is Mr. Jimmy Ogden, CHS class of 1991. This honoree is known for setting high goals and accomplishing them, as evidenced by his appearance as a Jeopardy contestant, cycling the Alps during the Tour de France, and competing in the 76 RBC Grand Fondo cycling event from Vancouver to Whistler, British Columbia, not once but twice. Jimmy Ogden is a man of many talents and interests. Beginning at Commerce High School, Jimmy was captain of the undefeated 1991 by-district champion basketball team, during which he scored 2 key free throws in the final minute of the 88-85 win over South Lake Carroll to win the title. And if you don't think that didn't mean something to him, he's got a trophy sitting right in front of him. And a team picture. And as a former longtime basketball coach, I totally get it. That's about as good as it gets, right, sir? But also during that time, Jimmy was class president, valedictorian, a 2-time state UAL science competitor, and a national merit finalist. While a student at the University of Texas at Austin, he received the Texas Excellence Award Scholarship and Leadership Scholarship, founded and served in the Texas Blazers Men's Service Organization, and was named Cactus Yearbook Outstanding Student. He had internships at NASA, Ames Research Center, UT Austin's Applied Research Laboratories, and the German satellite manufacturer Dornier. He left the University of Texas with a BA degree with highest honors and a BS degree in aerospace engineering. From 1997 to 2012, he worked in the software industry, primarily for Trilogy. He founded his own company in 2006, and in 2014, he had a startup brewery in London. While in London, he received a culinary degree from Leeds School of Food and Wine. This guy's a Renaissance guy. At the present time, he is a stay-at-home dad while he continues to serve as a board member for fundraising for the 40-acre scholarship program. I asked him to tell me about a certain memory that he had in Commerce ISD. And he said that he remembers this. As teachers, it's amazing what kids remember. He said, I remember in the 4th grade, we had 2 parties on the same day. The first one was punk rock day. And I had blue hair and I wore a big chain. And he said that afternoon, the party was we got to go outside and catch passes from Wade Wilson. So that's a pretty good day. Jimmy lives in Dallas, is married to his wife Catherine, and they have 2 children. His parents, Bill and Nancy Ogden, continue to live in Commerce. We are honored to add Mr. Jimmy Ogden to our Hall of Honor wall.
I probably don't need to move this. Thank you, Mr. Drummond. Charlie, when he said that, did remind me of a story, but I'm not going to share too many of those. Yeah, we won't talk about that. So I was first informed that I had been selected for the Hall of Honor back in 2014. And while this is a big honor, I was explaining that I was living in London, and I didn't really think that I'd probably make it back, given the cost of plane tickets. The other thing I knew was that I was going to go to culinary school that fall, and I thought that would be maybe a couple of days that I'd have to miss, and maybe not the right thing to do that early in the year. But what I did know was that the day that everyone else was being inducted, I was doing the very traditional thing on that day, which was making a Sunday pub roast. And so while everyone here was being inducted, I was making the most traditional thing you could make for British food. And then after 2014, I just decided not to say anything to anybody. And then finally, Madonna tracked me down this year, and I said, okay, yeah, I'll do it. So I'm now the 3rd member of my class with Chris Clark and Scott Williams, and very proud to be a part of the crew at this point. In high school, as you've already heard, I was a captain of the basketball team that went 17-0. And the thing that was impressive about me hitting those 2 free throws is I had the lowest free throw percentage of anybody on the team. And so the fact that I hit both of them was very good for my confidence and everything that proceeded beyond there. And I'm pretty sure that our team had kind of pushed away Coach Task. He had been a longtime basketball coach in Commerce, and I think our team broke him. We had gone 6-6 the year before, and so then my senior year, Coach Colin Curtis came over from the girls' side to be our coach and kind of gave us the lack of structure that we all needed to succeed. One of the other things I did for 4 years was I was in one-act play. And every year I had a speaking role, except for my sophomore year when I had gotten 3 of my teeth knocked out in a basketball game. And so I wasn't able to deliver my lines that year, so they didn't give me any lines. But my senior year, I got to play the role of Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. We didn't win district, which I'm really upset about still to this day. But I did get picked as best actor in the performance before the final performance that we did. And then one of my partners in crime then was Dr. Patricia Tremmel, aka Patty Sosa. And we had lots of fun doing one-act play for all those years. Other things I did, you've heard all the good things. A couple things that haven't been mentioned. I shot football games on 16mm film, back when we used film. There was another guy doing VHS. I wanted nothing to do with that, but I was happy to change the film cartridges and get those off so that the team would have them the next day to watch black and white film and then color film to see the games. And the other thing was I was the worst member of the golf team. Absolute worst. My very first tournament, I actually hit a woman on my second shot, square in the arm, and she was standing on the green. Before I before I graduated from high school, I had already gotten above the height limit to be a NASA astronaut. That had been a goal of mine earlier on. I wanted to be an Air Force pilot and become a NASA astronaut. It was too tall before I even graduated, so I decided, well, let's not go to the Air Force Academy. But I also thought, well, I can't probably do this at any level, so let's go somewhere else and not even try to be a pilot. But I did stick with aerospace. I only applied to 2 schools. I applied to MIT and I applied to University of Texas at Austin. I got the bill for what it was going to cost to go to MIT, and I decided, let's try to go to UT Austin. And then later I got a scholarship to UT, so that made it an even easier choice. I would have applied probably to 2 other schools, but back in those days, as many of the people in this room know, you get to type those things. You get to type them on an IBM typewriter in my dad's office over at East Texas State, and so I just didn't have 2 other applications in me. So then one day that fall, our guidance counselor, Sherman Rainey, said, you know, there's this scholarship application for Texas, and you should fill this thing out. So I did. I went and I researched what I was going to do for my essay, put that in. A couple months later, I got flown down to Austin, and I was interviewing for a scholarship. There were about 20 of us there interviewing for 8 scholarships. And then the final part of the process was walking into an interview with about 9 people. And a man with an eye patch walked up to me and said, hello, I'm Lowell Leverman, I'm from Commerce, Texas, where are you from? And it took me aback for a second, and I said, well, I'm from Commerce too. So I sat down, apparently I did well enough, or Lowell had enough play, that I got one of the 8 scholarships. That was called the Texas Excellence Award for Scholarship and Leadership, or as we call it for short, Texas Scholars, which was the top scholarship at UT at the time. My parents then decided to sweeten the deal. They said, we'll buy you a car if you go to Texas. And so I went to Austin in a brand new Ford Explorer, navy blue with a stick shift, which again, you can't get a stick shift anymore as an Explorer, but at the time you could. At UT, I studied aerospace engineering and Plan 2. One of my big accomplishments at UT was starting a men's honors service spirit and leadership organization. We started that in 1994. We modeled it on a women's organization that had been around since 1923. They wore orange vests, we wore navy blazers. And one of the reasons we had done this was there are a number of organizations on campus that do things like take care of Bevo or take care of the cannon. They were known for having pretty bad hazing. And we didn't want to have an organization like that. We wanted one that actually stood for the things that we founded on service, on spirit, and leadership around campus. And so, unfortunately, the time that we had our first pledge class, one of these organizations killed the pledge. And that's just not what we wanted to do, and I'm very happy that our organization will be 30 years old come 2024. So just very proud to have been able to be part of something good that's impacted lots of kids in Texas. And another thing at Texas is I had a number of jobs that helped me sort of winnow down what I wanted to do with my life. I worked for 2 years on classified research for Navy sonar systems, which was a fun job that let me use computers. In 1994, I took a class with Dr. Hans Mark, and Hans Mark was a former NASA administrator, a former Undersecretary of the Air Force, which while he was there, he was secretly in charge of all the spy satellites that the US had, which didn't officially exist until 1995. He was also the former Chancellor of the UT system. And when I took the course from him, I was one of the few people who was willing to say, oh yeah, Dr. Mark, 2 lines up, you made a mistake there, that's why the equation doesn't work. Which apparently he appreciated. And so one day after class, he said, can you bring those slides up to my room? We went up to his office and we got there and he said, what are you doing next summer? And we started working on getting me an internship at NASA that summer. And so that summer I loaded up my car, put a mattress in, enough clothes for the summer, and I drove to California for the summer. While I was there, I had a lot of people who were 5 or 10 years ahead of me, and they said, this is the mid-90s, there are lots of things happening in technology, do not work for NASA, do not work for the government. So I took that on board. My final internship was the next summer at a place called Dornier Satellite Systems in Friedrichshafen, Germany. Our offices were on the Bodensee or Lake Constance in southwest Germany. It was an internship that I wanted because I'd had 2 years of German at Texas, and I really wanted someplace where I could practice that and spend the summer speaking German to people. It was also a great summer because that was the year that Germany beat England to win the European soccer championships and football championships, which gave me lots of fun social time with the German kids that I was there as interns. I made them Texas chili with the Fowler packets that I brought from Texas. And then they, in turn, taught me how to open a beer bottle with a rock. So when I graduated in '97, none of the real big employers of aerospace engineers were doing a lot. We weren't building a new version of the space shuttle. We weren't building new military planes. And so I decided I needed to do something else. One of my friends was working for a software company called Trilogy. Trilogy was in Austin, didn't know what I wanted to do, and so I figured, well, as long as I don't know what I want to do, I can go ahead and do it in Austin for Trilogy if they'll hire me. They thankfully did, and so I worked there for a number of years. After a while, I wrote software for a very short period of time, And then I very quickly realized that my skills were better suited to talking to our clients, talking to our customers, and make sure that we could translate what they wanted to do into something that we could go off and build. After doing that for a while, I was selected to run the training path program we had for college graduates. And during that program, I unfortunately got put between the CEO and one of the founders of the company, the other co-founders of the company, and they had completely different ideas about what we should be doing as a project, which was one of those stressful times in my life. As that happened, I reached out to my mom at UT campus, Eleanor Moore, who is the scholarship coordinator for the Texas Scholars, and she said, hey, why don't you come to Austin, or why don't you come to San Antonio this weekend? We're gonna have a trip down there. While we were there, I met a couple of current scholars, including a woman who was from Longview, Texas. A few weeks later, I bought the DVD for the documentary Hands on a Hard Body. Has anyone seen Hands on a Hard Body? Anyone? Yes. It's a great movie. So exchanged a few emails about that, went on a date. 23 years later, we're still together. We have 2 kids. It's a good way to do it. So a few years later, Catherine graduated and she moved to Dallas to go work for Goldman Sachs. I stayed in Austin. We did back and forth, long distance for a couple of years, and then Catherine said, hey, I have the opportunity to move to Paris. And I said, that's great, because I was not going to quit my job and move to Dallas, but I will quit my job to move to Paris. Anyway, we weren't even married at the time. So we very quickly, we weren't even engaged at the time. And so we very quickly got engaged. We then got married on a Thursday afternoon in January, because that was the first time we were gonna be in the same place together that month. And the only reason we were together is because we were going off to Aaron Zellhart's wedding the next day in Costa Rica. Aaron, another 1991 classmate of ours. Anyway, 2006, I became trailing spouse for the first time. In 2007, I was trailing spouse the next time as we moved not from Paris to London. And then in 2009, we then moved from London to Dallas. And so the first time I actually lived in Dallas was in 2009. Now the plan was, we were then going to move to San Francisco 6 months later. But we decided life is so easy in Dallas that we're just gonna go ahead and buy a house. So we bought a house in 2010, we bought another house in 2011 because we liked it better than the first house that we bought. But anyway, I've been in Dallas now for a while. But we move again. So in 2012, Catherine starts doing lots of work in Europe again, and in 2013, we moved to London for a year. Luckily, we have our first child on the way in 2015, which finally gives us the trigger to move back and move back to Dallas. I realize this is now longer. This is approaching the length of the spider discussion I think that we had when I was in 4th grade.
Not quite.
Not quite. Good. Anyway, so let's skip ahead here. So anyway, yeah, today I'm a stay-at-home dad. I've got 2 awesome kids. Lauren's in 1st grade at Armstrong Elementary. I can walk this way and this way to get there. William is 3 today. And so we can walk a block this way and a block that way to get him to his preschool. And yeah, I'm just super happy to be here. And I'm super happy that I got that scholarship to go to Texas that many years ago. In 2011, the Texas X has expanded and rebranded that scholarship program. It's now called now called the 40 Acre Scholarship Program. And because both Catherine and I had benefited so greatly from that scholarship, we became additional donors to that scholarship, and we hope to someday endow a full scholarship so that somebody will be able to go to school for 4 years and be able to do that forever. So since 2016, I've served on the board to raise money for the enrichment funds that those kids get to spend on study abroad, on unpaid internships, to go on overseas trips. And so in summary, Shannon Rainey, I'd like to thank you for encouraging me to fill that application out. That scholarship led to so many things. It introduced me to Lowell Letterman, it introduced me to Eleanor Moore, it introduced me to Hans Mark, and all the people who helped make my life what it is, and most importantly, it helped me meet my wife. It was a good pre-screen as far as for women I'd like to date. Anyway, thank you very much for recognizing me and having me here today. And I didn't say anything bad about Charlie.
Our next honoree is Mr. Eddie Pannell, class of 1992. Big E, I wonder how he got that nickname. When he walked in, I said, that's Big E. Now, Big E, as he is known in his hometown of Commerce, started with big dreams and fulfilled those big dreams as the owner of a successful full-service barbershop in Fort Worth called the Faded Blue Lounge. And I can tell you, anything called the Faded Blue Lounge is more than a barbershop. It's where people go to get filled up, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Spiritually.
Yes.
Through his innovation, he has expanded his small business to include men's hygiene products and specialized grooming services. In high school, Eddie was an all-around athlete, competing in football as a right tackle. He also told me he played defensive end, basketball as a power forward, and in track and field throwing a shot put and discus. After graduating from Commerce High School, he attended Tyler Junior College, Texas College, and Williams Barber College. Before setting up his own shop, Eddie served in the United States Army for 10 years. Thank you for your service, sir. Although staying abreast of the latest trends in men's hairstyling continues his work life, Eddie's main passion is helping others. He is a deacon at his church, the Potter's House. I think we've probably all heard of the Potter's House over the Metroplex. Other activities include teaming with the Fort Worth Police Department to reduce domestic violence, offering free haircuts, and mentoring young people. The person nominating Eddie for this honor said, Eddie is an example of hard work, learning a skill or trade, and then taking it to the next level of a successful small business. Eddie is married to Carmen Cobbs, and they live in Crowley, Texas. His parents are Eddie and Billy Pannell. Welcome, Big E, to the Commerce ISD Hall of Honor.
Good afternoon. Sorry about this. Got a lot of people to thank. As you said, my name is Eddie Pannell from Commerce, Texas, born in Wolf City, Texas. First, I would like to give the most of respect to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who is the head of my life and the comforter of my family and I. Thank you I would like to thank my parents, Eddie and Billy Pannell, for raising a great man, as you can see. You're pretty good too, though. And also my sisters, nieces, aunts, and especially my beautiful wife right there for me. None of this could be possible without her, because she's my backbone, my support, my everything. But when I first moved to Fort Worth, Texas, there was a guy that said, what good can come out of Commerce, Texas? And I said, excuse me? What good can come out of Commerce, Texas? And I told him, from a young man, coming from humble beginnings, cutting hair for $5 on the back of the porch in Norris community, it was hard, but my parents raised a strong man. And they taught me what hard work is. The first entrepreneur that I saw was my father. He had a construction business, and I worked with him. And that's where I got my hard work from. But I never knew that barbering would take me all over the world, from servicing people like LeBron James. Hold on 1 second, I'm sorry. LeBron James, Shaquille O'Neal, Blair Underwood, my Bishop T.D. Jakes, my pastor now, Pastor Winfield, and several others. Working on movie sets, flying to California, flying to Miami to work on movie sets. When I used to charge $5, now I'm getting $2,500 to service a client. But to make a long story short, this is such an honor, and I wish my parents could be here. It's hard that they're not. But what I will say is I thank you all. This is an honor as well as a privilege. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you. This is an honor. That's all I have.
next honoree is Commerce High School, class of 1958, Mr. Jerry Speight. So varied are the interests and accomplishments of our honoree Jerry Speight, it would take hours just to highlight them all, but I'm going to give it a shot. Having been born in the Scatter branch, which direction is that? West. Having been born in the Scatter branch community near Commerce in 1940, Jerry was set to be Commerce Tiger throughout high school. He was an officer of the school newspaper staff, student council, and the band. And he told me, listening to the jazz band a while ago, that he went like 35 or 40 years without touching his instrument, but recently, like 5 or 6 years ago, started playing again and is playing music again with an ensemble or a group. I think that's super cool. He won UIL competitions in typing, student conducting, and band solos. After high school, he attended Drawn's Business College in Dallas, specializing in engineering and drafting. Jerry delayed his post-secondary education when he joined the Air Force in 1959, where he received honors as well. Thank you for your service. Here's where we get busy. The person nominating Jerry for this honor stated no biography can come close to describing what a wonderful community servant he really is, and does not begin to tell how much on a daily basis that he gives of himself to others. A list of his activities and accomplishments include receiving his BS degree in Bible and Missions at Dallas Bible College and ordained in the ministry in 1969, assisted coaches in founding the Fellowship of Christian Athletes at Greenville High School. He co-owned the first Ace Hardware store in Hunt County while inventing, manufacturing, and marketing numerous Underwriters Lab approved wood-burning stoves. He worked for over 15 years in audio and video media for national Christian publishers as well as the national religious broadcasters, was one of the founders of the Greenville Christian School in 1976, serving on the board of directors for 17 years, and founded a nonprofit organization, Hope Center of Greenville, as an inner-city ministry to offer tutoring, mentoring, literacy, and life skills training at no cost to recipients. Busy man. Jerry married Brenda Gaines in 1960, and they have 2 grown daughters. The couple resides in Greenville. If I'm doing the math right, that's a long marriage. We're here today to add another entry into his long and varied resume, a 2022 Commerce ISD Hall of Honor inductee. Please join me in honoring Jerry Speight.
Thank you, sir, Superintendent Ogden and Kathleen. Thank you for just allowing me the opportunity to be here today. And any honors that I have received or am recognized for is dependent on the one that has allowed me to do these honors is sitting right back here. My wife of 62 years, soon to be 63 years, Brenda. And it's good to have my brother Don and my nephew here. Don he graduated 4 years ahead of me from Commerce. And then it's such a special treat for me today to have a couple of just very key classmates, very special friends of mine. And I actually should include 3 because Janet, you represent another one of my great classmates, and Robert or Bob Pete, and Winston Williams and Vita McCaslin, people that have meant so much to me throughout the course of my life. At Scatter Branch, my grandfather helped build a school there, and our teacher taught 1 row of a class at a time, 1st through the 6th grade. She'd teach 1 row and then move over a row and continue through the course of the day. Great beginnings. And then the consolidation took place. And after the consolidation, of course, it was coming into Commerce. Fell in love with the school here because I loved to learn. I enjoyed reading. I was taught there with a very small library out in the country. We had no power. There was nothing convenient. As a matter of fact, in droughts like we just had, one of the things that I had the accomplishment of doing was I was so small until in our big cistern it would go dry. My dad would let me get into the big bucket with a chain and let me down with some cleaning supplies down about 30 feet to the bottom of that cistern. And my job to scrub it and clean it, send stuff back up, and then Dad would borrow a neighbor's a large tank and come to Commerce and pay 50 cents or so for a tank of water and put that into our cistern as we had been catching water off the roof of the house. It was a great life out there, and I learned a lot of things from those days. My dad was a tenant farmer, and we didn't have a large farm. Our farm was owned by my grandfather. And I recall on one occasion, I guess one of my great lessons about integrity was some that have lived here a long time may remember that, excuse me, that Pete McCool had a garage called Pete McCool's Garage. And in those days, the charges were made and put onto a 3 to 5 card. Dad got word one day that the McCool garage had burned and he'd lost everything. Dad came in from the working out on the farm, put on a clean pair of overalls, and he said, "I need to go to Commerce." And we asked him what he was going to do, and he said, "Well, McCool garage is burned. I'm going to go by the First National Bank, and I know exactly what I owed him from working on my car. He's going to need some money." And Dad looked him up, paid him. He said, "I just wanted to find you because you're going to need some help." Little did I know, Dad died when he was 52, and at his visitation, one of the McCool kids said, "You have no reason to know this, but you will never know that throughout our family, the impact that what your dad did for all of us in the family and for life, because your dad followed through with something that a few people recognized was so important." And I learned some of those things about encouragement. In school, we had a great class. In the class, there were a lot of people that had been very successful. In that class were people who had given a lot to encourage others and to help others be successful. I worked with a company that did all the work for Zig Ziglar, and one of Zig Ziglar's favorite things to do was to tell somebody, if you want to be successful, help somebody else to be successful. And I mentioned T.D. Jakes. There was a time when I was in Christian media that we would do about 10,000 videos a week for T.D. Jakes and his work when they had those big conferences. Traveled all over the country and got quite an education doing that. But in the process, we, as a student at Dallas Bible College, which was an undergrad school down the street from Dallas Seminary, which was a grad school, and I was given an opportunity to do a research paper on the trends of education in America. And I was startled because some of those trends were disturbing to me. And I said, well, maybe there's some parents that would like to have an alternative for their kids. And so another pastor in Greenville and I went to the superintendent, and the superintendent, a delightful gentleman, and he sat back in his chair and he said, "You know, I'm going to be a strong supporter of what you're doing." And during that time, Greenville Christian School was founded, and we were really closely knit with GISD, and I was heavily involved there. And it was a joy to help the coaches there found the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I worked very closely with a lot of those athletes, and it was a privilege to be involved with a lot of those people. We founded the Hope Center in 2006, and our computer instructor retired from GISD as well as from Paris Junior College. We have a partnership with PJC, and she's having so much fun teaching as a volunteer now, and she's in her 80s, very, very active, and the delight to read some of the stories of people who've gone through our classes, whether it's GED, ESL class, or our computer class. Dr. Hendricks has been one of the faithful people. He has emceed every banquet that we've ever had at the Hope Center. We've seen people who were really down. Just going through files now as I'm downsizing, I'm reading a lot of stories or cards that people wrote. And one that I just got yesterday on my phone. And this young lady said, it was so good to run across you going in. She opened the door as we started out at Chick-fil-A this last week. And one of the statements that she made, "You saved my life. I have no idea where I would have been were it not for what you folks have done." In school, I was a little guy, so I went with the music. Winston and some of the other fellow classmates had to take care of the athletic side, but they needed some people to cheer for them and to play instruments for them. So we, Don was ahead of me 4 years in class, and so I was just a guy. I looked like a little sixth grader, and we had a teacher named Tula Milford, and Tula Milford came down to. I was visiting the class that day. For some reason we were out of class and the high school was in session, and she came up by him, and he introduced me as his brother. And as Ms. Milford said, "You know, young man, it will be a delight in future years to have you in my class." Well, all of my aunts had been through her classes, and little did she know that the next year I was going to be in her freshman English class. And but you know, some of the things that I was given at Commerce High School were things that I've carried throughout my life. Teachers who poured into my life, all the way from Mr. Massey over at Wheeler Elementary when I first came in from the country, and the little school there, all the way up through school. And I had Mrs. Hyman that taught me about journalism and how to write, and just the English teachers that I had, the math teachers that I had. A couple of teachers I'll mention, and Mrs. Hyman, of course, was our major teacher of handling the tiger tips and being able to work on the school paper. But an example is typing. We had a old Royal standard typewriters, non-electric, and they had no marks on the keys. They were just black. And she said, "I'm gonna teach you how to type." And so I said, "Okay, I'm ready for this." So she was an incredible teacher. Came up UIL time, and Lou Myrick and Barbara Shields and I went to a UIL competition. And in order to qualify for that competition, we had to type, on that old typewriter, we had to type 75 words a minute for 5 minutes without error. My daughter teaches at Grapevine Faith School, and she wanted to take that my same typewriter that I used at Commerce High School. The students had never seen a typewriter like that. Well, I tried. The typewriter was still in working condition, and I tried to type, and I said, I think you had to push the keys down about 2 inches in order to strike it. And I said, how did we ever type 75 words a minute on that typewriter without making an error for 5 minutes? Well, we did quite well in typing, and that particular skill carried me right on through life. And in the Air Force, I had an opportunity to volunteer for the Drum and Bugle Corps, and then went to Ogden Air Force Base in Florida. And one of the first things that they said, back at San Antonio, they came in one day and said, does anybody play a brass instrument? I volunteered, and that started my career again all over. That's why I love this group that played. It's a super program. And so I volunteered again. I said, they asked me who was a good typist. And that gave me a good job that I had to type up reports for the base commander every day and get those submitted. And that helped me all along the way. And then right on into the rest of my career through college and through some of the businesses and things that God has allowed us to do. You know, I think about all the people, the interaction with so many people and people that have super needs. And we deal with a lot of students who mistakenly dropped out of school. Just to get them back into learning and getting them to appreciate the fact that you can do this. You stay with us, we can help you. And to watch them learn and to watch them get excited about life. And there's a desperate need. I speak to different clubs, and at Rotary recently, I said, somebody asked me a question, what can we do? And I said, what I want you to do is go home. I want you to open your eyes and your ears and start by looking at your neighbor and seeing what their needs are and see how you can meet that need. And it's one of the missing elements in our culture. And so I have appreciated the opportunity for the education that I've received at Commerce, and how that has all built into my life in a remarkable way. And I see that still continuing. And I just urge you, and as a board and as leadership, just to continue to do what you're doing, because it's worthwhile. And it is such an honor for me to get that call about this event today. And I so appreciate the opportunity to be here, and just to thank all of you and to thank the school for giving me the background that God has used in some amazing ways in the course of my life. Thank you.
Well, y'all got to hear some amazing stories, a lot of amazing stories of students that Commerce made an impact on, but that have also made an impact on Commerce. We have a couple more events today. All the honorees will be going to the high school pep rally, so for some of you that haven't been able to go to one of those, they're still as interesting as they used to be. Then after that, we've got the high school football game, and we'll honor them there too. But thank y'all very, very much for being here to support these people. They are amazing people, and we're very proud to have them as the representatives of Commerce ISD. Thank you.